Well, realities of racism exist everywhere we look, in our daily lives, among strangers, sometimes families and friends, and in our careers, our workplaces, which we know are working to make concrete changes towards equal opportunity and inclusivity. But it has got to go beyond just the jobs, the diversity seminars, task force, and policies. Karen Craggs-Milne is the head of anti-racism, diversity, equity, and inclusion at Thought Exchange, and Tonya Williams is a Canadian actress and founder of the Canadian Real World Film Festival. Both of them join me now to start on this discussion. Great to have you both.
Thank you.
Tonya, talk to me about your experience as a Black actor, the constant barriers and challenges you faced.
Well, we have to go back. It was the late 70s when I started my career. So there were not only very few Black people on camera, but any job that I booked, I would be the only Black person on the entire set, behind the camera also. So there were challenges because I think you have to steel yourself against the comments that people might think are funny. And I wasn't just a Black person, I was a Black woman. So you have the gender and you have the race. And that people just said the most insensitive things without being aware that they were even insensitive.
Yeah.
And I think definitely over the 40 years, there's a lot of growing pains that have happened, but we still have a long way to go.
Karen, when you're listening to Tonya and what she's saying here, what strikes you? What are you concerned about?
Well, I think she's talking about issues that really cut across all sectors. So unequal pay, underrepresentation in terms of numbers. When we look at lack of agency in a sector, how many people actually own businesses in that sector? How many people have a say or have some influential role to play? And, I love that Tonya is also talking about intersectional discrimination, which means that when you're a Black woman, your experience of discrimination is unique and heightened because of the intersection of discrimination based on race as well as gender. And so it just really, demonstrates that these issues cut across all sectors and they are embedded in long historical tradition.
Yeah, certainly. We are seeing change happen, change in corporations, workplaces. But I want to get your thoughts on this, that the changes that we see in corporations and workplaces are not achieved by just ensuring diversity and opportunities for BIPOC individuals. What are your thoughts on that statement here? Tonya, let's start with you first.
I'm always skeptical about changes that are quick, because quick to me means short term. I would much prefer to see changes that come slowly, that I know will be integrated in every level of that industry or that corporation or that organization. And currently right now, I do feel that people are trying to find quick fixes or what the optics might look like publicly to their company. And that makes me nervous. We'll have to look in 5 years and see what those changes have done, because I've been now in the industry for over 40 years. And I can tell you a lot of change. There are a lot of things that still have never changed, even though people have talked about them. Yeah, they haven't really come to fruition.
And it's in many ways, and Tonya, you're a perfect example of that, is in order to see the change, you take the matter into your own hand and you create that change for yourself and for those in your community.
Absolutely. As a person of color, I think a lot of times we can't wait for the community outside to make the changes for us. But at some point, you have to either stop the trajectory of your own career and put something in place that's going to help others, or it just, won't get done.
Karen, what are your thoughts? Because we are seeing a lot, policy changes, diversity forums, et cetera. We're here to educate. Your thoughts on all of that? I mean, clearly Tonya is saying, maybe it's a first step, but there's so much more that needs to be done at a much larger and longer, broader scale. Your thoughts,
right.
Karen?
Right. So I'm sure many people who are listening have heard the metaphor of, diversity is being invited to the party and then inclusion is being asked to dance. But I think that's an incomplete kind of metaphor for the work that needs to be done. So we don't just want people of color to join where they haven't been before in those spaces. We need to do the work around inclusion. We need to do the work around belonging, which is, the idea that I'm dancing like nobody's watching. I'm free to be who I am. But there's two other really important elements to that metaphor, which we don't talk about. And one of them is being at the decision-making table. So really having agency and equality in the perspective of who is sitting at the table deciding where the party's happening, when the party's happening, but also equity. What is holding people back? Why aren't people showing up at the party? And then you add the anti-racism lens to it, which very few companies are actually looking at right now. Everybody's jumping on the DE&I bandwagon. But anti-racism in that metaphor would be to say, hold on a second. Who decided that this is the way we're going to do it? This is the location we're going to do it. This is the music we're going to play. And why are we doing it this way? So you have to be really committed to this work as an organization to be able to really dig deep on those questions and be open to whatever you uncover in that process.
And Karen, that's something that you're looking at. That's something that you're focusing on. You're with Thought Exchange. You are the head of anti-racism, diversity, equity, and inclusion. Talk to us a bit about what it is that you're doing. And I want to get Tonya's thoughts on that. But Karen, tell us a little bit more.
Right. So first of all, a bit about Thought Exchange. This is one of the fastest growing technology companies in Canada. And what's amazing about this company is that they're doing two things in their work. They're scaling conversations and removing bias from those conversations, which in this day and age is really needed given all the work that we're doing. But most importantly, they have operationalized two principles, the principle of inclusion and the principle of equity in conversations. Because I'm seeing so many organizations that we're working with who are making decisions on behalf of others at the top. So you might have a group of people who are, Black or Indigenous, and they're saying, go fix the problem, create a committee and figure out how to solve this and make us look good. But the real work is to create a structure and a process that includes everybody in that conversation, that listens to their experiences and even asks them, what should we be doing and how should we be doing it? And Thought Exchange is doing that work internally with our own staff, which is how this role actually came into place, was the staff saying, we want this to be somebody's accountability and we want the right expertise in-house to make sure we're walking the talk internally, while also supporting our clients externally. So, this is super important work, and scaling conversations, listen to what people are saying, and taking action from what they're saying instead of what is an easy win or what you can afford, that's the real work.
I want to get Tonya to weigh in on this before we run out of time here. We've got just about 30 seconds or so left. Tonya, your thoughts on what Karen is saying. Is that part of that step forward, do you think?
It's definitely part of the step forward. I'm in awe of the work that Karen's doing and that she's been doing for a long time. But we have to also remember that racism is really deeply entrenched. It is not something that's going to be solved by government policies or by even corporate policy changes, because people will always do a workaround. If people do not want to accept people, if people do not want people included, if people don't even want to face their own prejudices from a really internal place, then nothing that we do externally is really going to make the changes that we need to make. We need to address the fact that, racism, which is at least 400 years just in Canada alone, is something that is painful and that is just, it just is in every piece and every part of our country, of our communities.
Absolutely.
And so, there's no quick fix, and it's going to take a really long time. And it first starts with us even just addressing. I think in Ottawa, there's a group of people that have been just trying to get an Emancipation Day. We don't even yet want to acknowledge a day when slavery ended in Canada. So it's so hard to think about hiring people and including people when we can't even get to the basic kernel of some of the issues that have just been crippling for Indigenous and Black people in particular in Canada.
There is so much repair that is needed. It's a mountain. It's a mountain, absolutely, as you say there, Tonya. But it is such an important conversation, and I thought the two of you would be the two best to continue it from where we started, and I think we'll continue it from this point onwards as well. Tonya Williams, Karen Craggs-Milne, thank you both so much for this. We'll speak again soon. You both stay safe and well.
Thank you.
Thank you.